Good morning, students. So today we are going to see this Gulmohar textbook, and in the previous class you saw this lesson on 17/8/2020. So I'll have a brief recap on the lesson. So you have seen she came with the 3 kittens to the Laurie's house, and he was very happy to see them and he was entertained, and she asked if she wants to read some book for him, and he said he has read all the books. And later on they were discussing about the family members, and he said he used to see all of them from his mansion, and she was feeling that they were very happy and jolly, spending their time with their sisters and mother when he was lonely there, Laurie, isn't it? And he was telling that I used to watch you there, and she asked, you can come to our house, isn't it? Why do you stand there only? Your grandfather doesn't allow you? Then he said no, he is very good person, and he thought that I will disturb you, the strangers and all. And she said, we are not strangers, we are your neighbors, you're always welcome. So let's start the next page. So move on to the next page. Page number 18, isn't it? So you have to write today's date, 19/8/2020. So we'll continue from here. Okay, children, listen. If you like them so much, come down to our library, Laurie offered. Grandpa isn't home, don't be afraid. So someone came there. Who came in between? Doctor, isn't it? To check Laurie, and he was telling that you can go to the library, and you don't worry, my grandfather is not there. What he said? My grandpa is not there, don't be afraid. So see what she is replying. I'm not afraid of anything, Joe replied, tossing her head. So she said, I'm not afraid of anything because I'm not covered, isn't it? So Laurie laughed and led her through the rooms. So he laughed for that. He let her examine whatever struck her fancy. So he just left her to see whatever it is there in the room. See the examine meaning here? Check with interest. So whatever it is interesting, so we say that it examine means check with the interest. And what is that? Struck her fancy. Struck her fancy means made her curious, means knowing more about those things and all. So that you mean as struck her fancy. At last they reached the library, where Joe clapped her hands and danced with delighted. See, at last they reached the library, means by moving from the room they just reached the library, where Joe clapped her hands. She started clapping her hands and danced with delight. Danced with delight means she was happy. See, it was lined with books. Lined with books means, see here, filled with many rows of books. Means there were a lot of books in the library. And then there were pictures and statues, strange little tables and bronze pieces, and best of all, a great open fireplace with quaint tiles all around it. So here they are explaining how the place was, the library. In the library, see, there were pictures, statues, and strange little tables, means pet tables, like pet tables, and bronze pieces, some showcase pieces, and moreover fireplace with quaint tiles all round it. Quaint means you can see here, pretty and old fashioned, means it is good, but it was old fashioned but nice. So here it was all round the fireplace. And see, what richness, sighed Joe, sinking into a chair and gazing around her. Means she was telling what richness. What richness means? Wow, very superb, you will tell, no, like that. So sinking into a chair. Means, see here, what do you, my lowering herself gently into a chair. Means sitting there. She was sitting in the chair and gazing around her. Gazing means looking constantly in the same place. Means looking at the books there and all. She was gazing around her. Theodore, Lawrence, you should be the happiest boy in the world. So then she was telling, here you can see you are the happiest boy in the world. You should be happy because you are having so much here. She was telling to him. No one can live on books, said Laurie. He was telling that no one can live on books. Only with the books nobody can live. Shaking his head as he perched on a table. Perched means, what do you mean by perched? See here, sat on a narrow surface. In the narrow place he was sitting. Means on a table he was sitting in the corner narrow place. Just then a bell rang and Joe flew up alarmed. Just then a bell rang and Joe flew up alarmed. Flew up means, here you can see, stood up very fast. Means quickly he stood. It's your grandpa? What shall I do? Then she was telling, yeah, it's your grandpa has come. The bell has ring now. So what I shall do now? She was asking. Well, what if it is? You said you are not afraid of anything. Remember, said Laurie, laughing. So Laurie was laughing. Why? You told no, you are not afraid of my grandfather. Then why you are so afraid? Let him come. No, he was laughing by saying that. But it was only the doctor who had come to check on Laurie. So who came here? I told in starting, no, doctor came. So but it was only the doctor who came to check on Laurie. Would you mind if I left for you a minute? Laurie asked. So Laurie was asking, I'll just leave for 1 minute and if you don't mind, I'll go there. So Joe shook her head and went off to look at a portrait of old Mr. Lawrence. So she said, okay. She shook means shaking her head. Okay. So shook her head and went off to look at a portrait. Portrait means photograph. Whose photograph? See here? Old Mr. Lawrence. So grandpa's. She was still standing before the portrait when the door opened again. So she was keep on seeing the portrait, but the door was opened again. Joe did not turn. As she said, I won't be afraid of your grandpa. So she didn't just move and she didn't turn to see who was there because she said no, she is not afraid of grandpa. So he looks stern, but he has kind eyes and I like him. So what she said? Seeing the photograph, she was telling that he looks stern. Stern means, see here, serious and strict. Stern means serious and strict. But he has kind eyes and I like him. So she was telling, he looks very strict, but he is not. His eyes are very kind and I liked him. Thank you, ma'am, said a gruff voice behind her. So there was a voice, thank you, ma'am, in a gruff voice. Gruff means rough and low. Okay, rough and low. And there, to Joe's great dismay, stood old Mr. Lawrence. So, great dismay means see, a mix of alarm and shame when something unexpected happens. So, she was not expecting Mr. Joe means here, grandpa will come. So, she was in a dismay mood. She was shocked. And she stood there seeing old Mr. Lawrence. She was in a shame. Okay, so up to here the lesson is finished. Now you can see the ending part. Mr. Lawrence is very amused and invites Joe to tea. So he was also very amused. Amused means he was entertained and very funny with her and he offered tea to Joe. There, as Joe and Laurie talk merrily, Mr. Lawrence realizes how lonely Laurie had been and decides to send him to the Marks' house occasionally. So So when they both were talking, no, Joe and Laurie, merrily means cheerful and happy. So he recognized he was very bored these days and all, and he just sent him to Marge's house occasionally. Occasionally means sometimes he used to go there. And I told you in the before online class also, isn't it? It is an extract from Little Woman book by Louisa May Alcott. So you can see her introduction. Louisa May Alcott was one of the most renowned American authors of her time. Her most famous novel, Little Woman, was based on her childhood with her 3 sisters. Alcott's family, just like the Marge family, faced financial difficulties. So Alcott had to work from an early age to support her family. Writing became a way for her to express her emotions and her creativity. And I have shown you the picture, means the picture of the Louisa May Alcott, isn't it, in the online class also. So this was the lesson, dear children, and I am sending you the notes, the question answers you have to finish. And see this picture in this page. This I have given the correct answers, this main. You can just tick it up. Choose the correct answers to complete these sentences. So this page also I will send you the picture. You can correct and tick it up the correct option in your textbook itself. And you have to write the classwork, question answers in the English classwork only. Okay, dear children. Thank you.